I'm sad to report to everybody here. Wario did not fart in the month of June.
Donkey Kong did not give the thumbs up. Not approved.
Did not give a thumbs up, and I apologize for starting this episode of A Trip to Nintendoland on such a somber note. But it's here. We're on another episode. I'm Mike Burgess, one of the hosts here, and I'm joined as always by my partner in crime, Alex O'Neill. Hello, Alex.
Oh yeah, the Wario to your Waluigi.
That's right. Yeah, and as we said, June. This is our June episode. It'll come pretty early July probably still, but that's because a lot happened.
We gave them as much time as we could.
And that's not to say a lot of stuff happened in the month of June regarding Nintendo, but also not a lot happened. In the thing people including us very much expected from them, which was a big.
We had one idea basically. It was a blank shot.
Yeah, pretty much. We expected a big Nintendo June Direct as they've done for a while, and they didn't end up doing it. So that was my bit before was regarding our bingo card from last episode. So hopefully you watched that one.
If a Direct does happen, Mike, it's still in play as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I was about to say yes. I agree that the bingo card will still be in play someday. But for now, we will
evergreen.
Truly evergreen. That's a good way to put it. But yeah, regardless of not a major June Direct, we still did get a lot of news and things from all of the summer game events, and as well, Nintendo did do a Nintendo Direct Mini, but it was focused on third-party partner showcases, as they put it.
Yeah.
Excuse me. That did happen, so we're definitely going to talk about that. They did a Xenoblade Chronicles Direct, which is another big first-party Nintendo game. Granted, we're necessarily not the Xenoblade boys by any means, but it did happen, so we can maybe talk a little bit about that. And plus, there were some other fun, exciting newses from people like Jeff Keighley and other things that maybe aren't immediately Nintendo related, but also they're games that are games revealed or news that will affect the rest of the year for Nintendo Switch. So we're going to talk about it here on this Nintendo focused podcast we do every month at Irrational Passions here on irrationalpassions.com or on youtube.com/irrationalpassions, where you can see our faces in the video version of our podcast, as well as other things that I edit in. And you can also listen to this in a podcast form on podcast services. So Spotify's and all of that fun stuff. We're all there. But let's get right into some news that we just talked about. I just mentioned, and that is the partner showcase that happened. It was a 25-minute partner showcase that happened fairly recently. It was just this week that we're recording. And they did show a bunch of really cool stuff like that. I think we could probably start with maybe the highlights. At least kind of the things I thought were the highlights, and maybe we can shout out some other stuff.
The big stuff. Sonic Frontiers
is still happening and coming out this year. To
doubling down, it's for sure this year. They say
to many's dismay. I think, but yeah, another game that was maybe in a similar maybe this is not coming out this year talk, but now has been confirmed for this year and looks actually kind of great. Is Mario Rabbids Sparks of Hope, the sequel to was it Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle? I'm pretty sure that's what it was called.
Kingdom Battle, yeah, that's right.
Ubisoft, they're making that. It's like a tactical Mario teaming up with Rabbids game. It's a sequel to that game. It like the previous game was leaked again, but before they showed it off, and they were like the date got leaked, so we now know the date is October 20th for that. And they showed that off in the partner showcase a little bit, but then the day after the showcase, there was like a little showcase specific to that game that I think was on Ubisoft's channel. And I watched the direct, and I watched that, and it looks really good. It's like pretty much checking all the boxes on the things when that first game came out. And I played through it and had a good time, but there was definitely things I came away with I kind of hoped Like there's things they could have done better, and literally it looks like from that footage they've shown is straight up just like, hey, you wanted more more Mario stuff in this, like Mario enemies, here they are in the battles, and here's like, you're doing the combat battles, and like bomb-ombs are like in the field, and you can run over to bomb-ombs and pick them up in mid-battle and throw them at enemies, but they're also hazards in the battle. Here's like Goombas like stomping around in the battlefield while you're doing that tactic stuff like from the first game, battling rabbits, but now also Goombas are here, and you can do certain things like run through them and stomp them and do other effects. So like they're incorporating more Mario enemies into that aspect, and that looks super cool. The levels, when they show the characters moving around, it seemed like the areas and places you're going around are much more open, and rather they're not like the linear levels that they were before, where in the first game it was kind of like you basically be on a linear path to each encounter, where now it looks like you're kind of in a more open space, and the enemies are just around in those open spaces, and if you go up to them, that like more like initiates a battle rather than you're get up to an arena, and then when you're kind of going from battle to battle, it's more of like you can kind of initiate the battles in the open spaces. So it looks really cool. In that regard, it's like stuff I kind of wanted them to really do. We saw.
How long was the Rabbids specific showcase?
It was only like 6-7 minutes. Okay. It just went like a little bit more into that combat stuff. Like some of the stuff they've added, like then clearly they're trying to improve in that. The other thing which I think was in the partner showcase, but like they showed Bowser is now like joining the team, so he's like an actual party member rather than like an antagonist that's going to show up. Rabbid Rosalina is also there, and she has she's one of the party members now as well. And then like the one thing they didn't show off, but like they're making a big deal of, is like the sparks themselves are like going to be some kind of mechanic, and it looks like there'll be things you can like equip to your characters, and those are basically like they have like Lumas from Mario Galaxy, but they have like the weird rabbit faces, and those look like those what our sparks are more or less. And they look like there'll be some kind of customization option that you can basically equip to your characters, and those will have different effects of some kind, but they didn't really go into that with that, but it seems there'll be more that'll be like a big mechanic and some points, so they might show off that more at some point. They also said, it wasn't, I don't know if it was specifically said, but on some of the details from like the website pages, there will be like the first game, there will be like a DLC season pass post-launch thing, so that'll be adding like more characters, it said in there, and like other story stuff, so that'll be there as well. So I'll be curious if they maybe will pull like another Donkey Kong expansion, but maybe with like a different Nintendo franchise. That would be pretty cool if they went that route again.
A Yoshi expansion is happening.
Yoshi expansion would be cool. A Kirby one or
Rabbids
something.
Woolly World. Ooh,
Kirby Kirby one would be
Kirby
fun.
is more of a stretch than Donkey Kong, but I would still approve.
Yeah, same.
As long as they bring back the Kirby golfing, whatever that was called.
Yeah, make that the battle.
Shout out to the tradition of any Mario RPG having Bowser as a playable character at some point in the franchise.
Yeah.
I respect that. They're committed to it. I like the random battles kind of thing. I'm curious. It is funny, like watching the gameplay that they showed off. The just kind of comedy of Mario's just like running around, and these people are just standing still, and he's beating them.
Yeah, just smacking them and shooting them with guns. Yeah,
and they're just sitting there. It's
silly.
There's a fun factor to that is absurd, but is good. Yeah, I don't know. I still haven't played the first one. I've bought it, but yeah, I don't know if I'll ever get to it. That's just one of the ones that could sit in the backlog forever. But I'm curious. I hope people dig this game. I hope it does well.
Yeah, it looks really cool. And one last thing they shouted out that I thought was cool as well is, like the first game, they got Grant Kirkhope back to do the music for this, and I saw this. Also Yoko Shimomura, who did a lot of the Mario and Luigi music for those games, is also involved in the music making for this game. So this will probably at least have a very banger soundtrack. That's for sure. A
banger soundtrack.
Yeah.
There was a third person in that.
I forget. I don't remember who they were either, but they did a lot of I think early Mario soundtracks in other games too. I Yeah, and that's like that first game had a lot of really good music in it too, because that was all Grant Kirkhope as well. So yeah, definitely looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to that. I like that first game, but yeah, there were definitely it definitely was a game that like was fun, but then like it kind of went on a little longer than it needed to, and like it didn't like evolve enough. Where like this game seems like it's kind of checking a lot more of those boxes of like the things I kind of wanted after a certain point from that first game, or it looks like there are a lot of that here. So I'm definitely looking forward to this game when it comes out October 20th.
Hell yeah.
So that was the first big one. The second big news item was what they closed with for the partner showcase, and boy, is it feels like it's finally time. They finally did the thing, and the Persona games are coming to Nintendo Switch. Finally, we made it here.
All of our prayer circles.
Yes, the prayer circles.
Human sacrifices. The lambs murdered in the name of Teddy. Yeah.
Somewhere there's
we did it.
Somewhere there's a bloody pedestal with a Morgana just with a knife stabbed into its chest, and blood sacrifice has happened.
Big anime cat head. This is obviously not a huge surprise after the Xbox announcement happened like 2 weeks beforehand, but it's good news. People have wanted this for so long. I'm like one of those people that like Persona 5 is so like you go buy a console to play that game is my feeling. It's like it's worth it because the argument for Persona 4 Golden, which is also coming in, Persona 3 Portable, which is not maybe the best version, not my preferred version of that game, but is still like the most accessible 100%. And nobody coming into that franchise, even if like they considered giving Persona 3 a shot, is gonna like not being able to control the party members or whatever. Even though that's like the only way I play it now because that was the game I played first. But yeah, it's good news, and it's like a native port of Persona 5 Royal. They're actually like adjusting it to run on Switch. It's not a cloud version, which is good. So yeah, it's nothing but good news. Enjoy them, Switch owners.
Yes.
Like I'm hoping, like, you know, sometimes the wild stuff happens with Switch games like Mario Kart and whatever. Like I'm hoping like Persona 5 like explodes to a ton of new people. It just gets
like an insane. Yeah, I think in general, because like you said, it's coming out in October as well, and it's hitting that same date, so it'll literally hit Xbox, Nintendo Switch, and PC, and like current gen consoles like PS5 and stuff like that.
Yeah, PS5 is getting an upgrade and stuff. Yeah.
So I think it'll definitely be a big hit for Persona 5, and it is Persona 5 Royal. So it's like it is the like current updated version with like the updated story and DLC and all that stuff. And then like you said, sometime next year we'll get Persona 4 Golden and Persona 3 Portable. So all of that stuff is finally coming to Switch. They finally did it. And yeah, and I think this is like the right way to do it, right? Like it was the thing where like obviously people have wanted this for a while. And I think them just instead of kind of like being like, hey, we're doing it. Here's Persona 5 on Switch. And then just kind of being like quiet and everybody being like, all right, where's the other ones? They just kind of, it seems like they maybe intentionally held back on announcing this stuff until they were able to say like, here's all of them and they're all coming within this time frame, right? Like that at least that's what I'm guessing. And maybe who knows, it just maybe worked out that way, and maybe they had other plans and whatever. But like it definitely seems like it was at least at the end of the day, it was the right move to just be like, here's Persona 5 Royal, 4 Golden, and Portable P3, and then all of it's will be on Switch like sometime within like the next year.
I'd bet that Golden and Persona 3 come out at the same time, whenever that is.
Sure.
I don't know if they would space them out. They might, but like I'd say like there's definitely like a small subset of people, kind of like I alluded to earlier, that are like bummed that it's not Persona 3 Fez, which like I said is probably the better version. It's like Persona 3 Portable, they changed the user interface so that way you don't actually get to walk around town, which is a big part of 3 and 4 or 4 and 5.
Sure.
It's just like a visual novel interface where you're just kind of going from like a list of locations, and then you kind of point on a map who to talk to. So it doesn't have like that magic of walking around Tatsumi Port Island. And I know some people are bummed about that. Some people are saying like, don't put out 5 first. You should play them in order or whatever. Like, let's just chill, everybody. This is a win. Take a W.
Just take it. Yeah. At least they're finally coming out on these consoles.
there's always that chance, like people have wondered and hoped of a Persona 3 remake, which would be really cool, like done in the style of Persona 5 and like really brought up because Persona 4 is still, it's an old looking game, but it's pretty modern mechanically. 5 is the best of them though. To all those people that are like, I hear these games are hundreds of hours long, I don't really want to play it. If you just play one, just play Persona 5. If like you can't afford the time for the other ones, it's fine. It's the best one. You'll have a great time.
Yeah.
It's very, the topics are very thematically relevant. So
interesting. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah. Again, the internet's going to be the internet, and they're going to find something to whine about, even though they're finally doing the thing they've wanted people to do for so long. And I feel like that's just always, that's always sometimes when these ports and remasters come down, and it's like, you know,
there's always a caveat, right?
There's always a caveat, and like, is it a caveat that actually matters? Most of the time, not really, but people have to make it a big deal.
Yeah, that's my 2 cents on it for all those hardcore people out there.
Regardless, though, I'm sure a lot of people will be excited to finally have Persona on Switch, and maybe like
talking about banger soundtracks. Those are 3 right there.
There you go. And I'm sure there might be a bunch of people who have never experienced those games and want to check them out for the first time on Switch. But yeah, I think those were kind of like the 2 biggest news drops from the Direct, is like finally getting that confirmation that Mario Rabbids is still this year, and Persona now coming also to Switch. But there still was some other stuff. There was a lot of port announcements during the partner showcase, which, like, to be fair, is like it's partner stuff. Like, that's generally what partners are going to do, is just they're going to put out a lot of they're either going to be Square Enix and going to put out a bunch of weird small games all the time on Switch, like we got here with like that weird Harvestella game, and then they've also announced previously,
which looks great. Very excited for Harvestella. Yeah, it's like checked all the boxes for me.
It did look interesting. Like it gave me some Crystal Chronicle vibes from some of like mainly like the art and like kind of like the direction of it. Although it's a little bit more like current day, like life kind of farm sim-esque.
You get the farm stuff. You got the meeting townspeople, probably marriage in there somewhere too. Crafting. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's in that lane of like they announced like the Dio Field something recently, which was like a tactics game, right? And then there was something else. There's some kind of like Valkyria thing too. That's like not Valkyria Chronicles.
Yeah, like the action RPG.
Like these, it feels like it's all in that same vein of like who are the? I don't even remember. I didn't even realize like there were this many small teams in Square Enix, making this stuff. Like, what's happening here? This is weird.
I mean, you got like Tokyo RPG Factory, that the Octopath team, they're both also doing other things. So it is very weird.
Yeah, totally.
I want to give a shout out to Cal Bossman, who did a great. He does videos. Delayed input is like his kind of series. If anyone like has seen the Final Bossman or something like that, it's very much his kind of modern take of that. He did just a phenomenal one on this Nintendo Direct, and he said about Harvestella, like it's crazy to sometimes see a perfectly budgeted game. And it's like it's not we were too ambitious and didn't have the money for it. It's not we paid way too much money for this and it's gonna be bad. Like perfectly in the middle. And that's like all those games that you just listed also are totally all that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's good. Those are good games. So
yeah, they could potentially be really fun, good games.
You get stuff like Fantasy Life out of that.
Yeah, totally. Like they absolutely do feel like those games. Like maybe they're from like the devs like before on 3DS. We used to have like a ton of those. Smaller, weird like JRPG.
Sometimes great, sometimes not so great.
Adjacent games. That's one I'm going to talk about later, which is it's not from Square Enix. It was shadow dropped during this partner showcase. It's called Little Noah Sign of Paradise. That was shadow dropped. I've actually been playing that on Switch, and it's a lot of fun. But it's in that same vein of like this feels like a game that was made on the 3DS but never came out to the 3DS and is now on Nintendo Switch, and like it feels absolutely like one of those types of games.
That's fine. I'm into those games.
Yeah, it's totally fine. Like it makes sense. Like the Switch has gone on for years now, and like the 3DS no longer exists, so these companies, like these studios, like can still make games. So why not make like slightly smaller things that make sense for that console, where they could potentially do fairly well. And more ports. I think this one was Very exciting to one. Scott White, Professor RBG from Rational Passions, is the Mega Man Battle Network collection finally happening.
Yeah.
It's freaking 10
This
games.
is a win.
That's pretty
For sure. Yeah,
it's pretty awesome.
I don't know if you went back and looked at this graphic, but apparently at around Mega Man Battle Network 4, they started doing that Pokemon stuff where there's like a red and a green version.
Green version. Okay, gotcha. Now
so
that makes more sense.
like 6 of those games are like 3 games that
Gotcha.
you get both versions of it. I don't know what that means. I've played Mega Man Battle Network. I don't know what that means for that game.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's Mega Man in general is like, and I don't have anything against the franchise. It's just for whatever reason the franchise I've just never really played or it's gone about. And there's just, I think some of it now at this point is like there's like a billion of those games. It's like it'd be such a deep
you're either
hole.
in or you're out.
Be such a deep hole. But these games like
it's like the One Piece of video games.
Yes, you know what? That's a pretty good analogy. For
if
sure.
You want to play every Mega Man game.
Yeah, it's like now you have to play like 10 normal Mega Man games, but then there's like 7 or 8 X games. Then there's like another like 7 Mega Man Zero X games. And now there's 10 Battle Network games, and it's like I'm sure they're good and they're totally good games. It's just like it's too much, too many games. I only have so much time in my life.
I've played the first Battle Network. I played it back in the heyday of the GBA, and it's cool. It is like a cool, like different kind of. It's not a Mega Man game, I would say, except in the aspect that you do get powers from like the major bosses that you beat, but. It is like a cool RPG take on it. It's very different.
Yeah, it feels like a one of those early attempts at making a video game franchise into a cartoon/anime, and it actually worked. Because that's what I remember that mainly from was like there was like a Saturday morning cartoon that was based off of this. I don't remember which one came first or whatever. I think maybe the game came first, and then the game came up enough that they made a cartoon. But it very much fit that era of like the Digimons and the other animes of that style of like, high or like not even teenage. It's like young boy transported into a digital fantasy world, and now they got to save it, and it's like very much of that era, which is totally cool. But yeah, it was just one of those things, and I'm sure that's cool. Again, it's there. I think people like those collections of those games and just having a big collection of games from that era and classic games in general. So it's nice for them to finally just be like, yep, here they are. Here you go.
Yeah.
Bunch of
I'm stoked for, there was a lot of people waiting for this specifically. Right. They've done them all the other ones. So it was on the list. I guess I don't know if they've done an X. They have done an X collection.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did do an X collection.
So yeah, this was only a matter of time, but people were stoked.
Well, they do. I guess the only thing left is because they do a Legends collection. Granted, it's only 2 games.
Legends is the last one left, the black sheep of the family.
Yeah, if they ever decide to dredge it up, that seems like treacherous waters. I could see it though, because like as soon as you have the name Legends,
upset about 3.
You'd be like, all right, where's 3 now? Yeah, it would immediately turn to that very quickly, rather than they're putting these back out for people to finally play in some shape or form.
Game had like a Kickstarter too. Mega Man Legends 3 had a time.
Yes, very very bizarre for sure. Another thing we had that I wanted to shout out was RPG Time Legend of Right. We did a few points of this a few months ago because it came out on Xbox first. It was a console exclusive on Xbox, but now it is finally coming to Switch, I believe in August. I think is what the data.
A wild game.
Yes,
very
it's
cool.
Go watch that Viewpoints. It's a very cool game, and it's kind of more like a point and click adventure, but it's like done in this way where it's like a kid's after school has drawn his this RPG role playing fantasy book, and he's like having another kid go through it in the school, and it's like his own little RPG adventure. Very cute, very fun, very
incredible presentation.
And just like some of the writing is very fun and silly. A lot of good.
Triple A presentation on an indie idea is what I would say.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it for sure. Definitely something I recommend personally to check out. And I have to go back to it one day, but it's a good game. But
Yeah.
I think is there anything else I'm trying to remember again from the
Nier happened.
Right.
People were stoked.
Yeah, so Nier Automata is finally coming to Switch. They're porting
Exclusive
that over.
costumes.
So yeah, some exclusive costumes, like you said, and then there's what was it
They
called?
have,
It's called like Legend of Yorha edition. They always have like weird.
Yeah, or like
names
the
for
End
that.
of Yorha edition, I think.
Yes,
They
yeah.
have the costumes that the characters have in the Final Fantasy 14
Dungeon.
raid in there. Yeah, the
okay.
2P and 9P
Interesting.
costumes, which
Sure.
are only, as far as I know, only otherwise in Final
14.
Fantasy 14. And if you want to like know how hard they go with this stuff, like they went out of their way to say that the raid in Final Fantasy 14 is canon.
Is
to the
canon.
new universe.
Yeah, that's what I've heard that.
So-
Yeah, I've heard that was like actually canon, which is kind of weird.
Yes.
For
Yeah.
sure. And I think
As someone who's played that raid, I can tell you it's fucking wild.
Yeah, that's
Music's great,
It's
though.
absolutely its own weird beast. Yeah, that's really cool. Nier Automata is it's a fun game. We're definitely worth checking out. I'm curious how it'd look and run on Switch, but I think it still could be okay, all things considered.
Another native port. They did port this one. You can tell now, you know the difference between a cloud version and a real port is like the effort level of,
Yes.
of what we're doing.
Boy. But I think that's largely what we had for the partner showcase. There's definitely a lot of other things in there, smaller announcements, but like those were definitely the standouts to me, at least, for sure. And yeah, like I said, I got that little Noah game, so I'll talk about that later. We talk about games we've been playing. It's a pretty neat little game. But yeah, we had our partner showcase. That was our June Direct, Nintendo Direct third party. We had a Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Direct, but that's not really our game, right? We've talked about it before on this pod. Like,
Yeah.
it's not really. I didn't even watch it, to be completely honest. Like,
I caught some of it. I will say
is
there is
like-
another Kyle Bossman video is entirely about
Yes,
that is extremely on point to how I feel about it, which
Excellent.
is pretty negative.
Yeah,
but-
yeah. That's probably how I feel like if I would. That's kind of why that in some ways is why I didn't watch it, because I feel like I feel like if I
not
just
my
watched,
bag, you know?
it's not my bag, and if I watched that, I feel like I would just sit here and be like, "What is this weird shit? I don't even know, man. What's going on?" Like, it just
Who are these characters? They mesh into mechs, I guess, at some point.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm happy for it's like the one like candid response, like I'm sorry that happened to you, or I'm happy for you.
Yes.
It's like whatever is applicable. Like,
Yeah,
I am stoked for the people that are into it.
yeah, absolutely. But that's kind of the big Nintendo news of June so far.
The news is that there's no news.
The news is that there's no news because, like everybody thought a major Nintendo Direct that they usually do in June did not happen. It's like we're recording this we're literally recording this on July 1st. So
it didn't happen. We can confirm.
Yes, we can confirm it did not happen in the month of June. There's still entire possibility we could get something smaller again in July. I don't know if we'll get something so soon. Who actually knows? Nintendo's plan is at this point, but that's kind of what I was gonna get into this topic here. Is like, at this point, do we really need a major Direct, or what do you think we kind of need from Nintendo now at this point in terms of news and what we want to see from them for the rest of the year? What do you think?
I'd say it's tough because I think they're fine ultimately. Obviously, it's a weird year just overall. Obviously, this is like the year where everything that was affected by COVID like has really kind of caught up to everything, and it's all getting kind of pushed into next year, and we'll see how next year how much that ends up being what it is. It seems like at the very least there's going to be some big tentpoles next year, and I'm sure Nintendo is wrapped up in that. We already know Breath of the Wild 2 is wrapped up in that, so this is very apparent to us, like how things have caught up to Nintendo. But it does feel weird. There's definitely a weirdness in the air. You can't dismiss it. It is valid that it exists out there. It is weird that they haven't, like, we'll talk about it a little bit later, like we know stuff that they haven't talked about yet. It's weird. Like Rabbids could have also rolled in with those things, I think, for sure. I know it's not directly Nintendo, and it was fine where it was ultimately, but it is like I feel like they have more that they could talk about, but they're just in that uncomfortable position of we don't really want to just make a bunch of promises that we're not going to be able to keep for a while. And I think that's also fair, but much like the kind of Metroid Prime for like internal cancellation or whatever, like it would be cool to have some direct communication about it. But I'm sure it's not like bad news; it's just no news.
Right.
But it would be cool if they just said, "Hey, we're working on stuff. Don't worry, we have a big next year plan, but we've outlined everything that we have for this year or whatever." So I think there should be maybe like you said, a mini, like a Nintendo Direct mini, not a partner showcase mini. But if they didn't do it, I think it would probably be fine. It would be weird, but it's happened before, flashback to 2016 where they were like, we're just talking about Breath of the Wild this year, actually. And they had a banger of a 2017 like lined up and ready to go. They just didn't have anything in 2016.
Right.
And obviously the Switch came out, and even going into that, people were like, I don't know, that weird press conference they did in January. We'll see. But then, you get Zelda. It's one of the best review games ever. And then you get Mario at the end of the year. Like it could be an instance like that where
one of their best selling consoles, period.
Period ever. It's outsold the Wii at this point. So, it's one of those things where it could be a similar situation where they have like a hardware plan for next year that we don't know about. And a lot of things are tied down to that. And we've been burned by that thought process before. So I'm not going to commit to that.
Yes.
But, there's a lot of reasons why it might not happen. And it would be fine. We've survived before. We survived the dark times of 2016. We can survive the dark times of 2020, at least in the video game space. I don't know about everything else. But,
seriously, yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I think they have stuff for sure. I mean, they've got Breath of the Wild too. They're just sitting on it. They could show gameplay and explain some stuff in that game at this point. It would be fine. They wouldn't be like shooting themselves in the foot. I do think that will come out in the first half of next year for sure. I have zero doubts about it, to be honest. But they're just waiting. They're just chilling. How are you feeling?
Yeah. I think I'm in the camp of like, as June progressed, and it was like kind of clear we did our last pod and we made that bingo card, and June progressed and it was like, oh, we're probably not going to get a Nintendo Direct like the way we think we are this year, huh? And it kind of
Wario's not going to fart, is he?
Yeah, Wario's not going to fart. And then first, it was a little bit like, it's a bummer, but like, but then I sat here and thought about it a little more, and it's like, man, we kind of know a lot of Nintendo's year already. We like, even before we got this partner showcase, and now we know Mario Rabbids is October. Like, we know this month we're getting, we just got June. Even in June, we got Mario Strikers, and the Fire Emblem. Next month we're getting Live Alive and Live Alive, whatever. I don't give a fuck how to pronounce it anymore.
They've said it, Live Alive and Live Alive. They've said both of those.
They said it too. So
Lord knows.
They don't even know either. Xenoblade 3 is also July as well. Splatoon September. Now Mario Rabbids is October, and then November and December.
Pokemon's November.
Right, Pokemon is November. You're right. Why could I forget Pokemon? And then
Jesus Christ.
And then like the December is still open, and there's still
feel like that's just right where Bayonetta can hang.
Yes, I totally think if Bayonetta is still this year, that is their December game. There's also another news item which we can talk about a little bit more at length in a second here, but one Jeffrey Grubb, now officially of GiantBomb.com, has been more reaffirmed than ever about there being a Metroid Prime HD remaster releasing later this year, and specifically also potentially in November. So that could be another big game for them this year.
20th anniversary of Metroid Prime is November.
Yeah,
how wild is that?
That is the 20th anniversary, correct? So like, there you go. Like literally, like, even if we don't end up getting those, like, although it would be just a little bit disappointing to not get either of those two things that are not for sure at the moment, like, Nintendo's year is pretty solid. In my opinion, like there's like a few of those games like I'm looking forward to, like pretty much all the 3 games in the back half of the year, like Splatoon, Mario Rabbids, and Pokemon are all games I'm probably gonna pick up day one when they come out, because I like all 3 of those. I like all those franchises a lot. So like their year is pretty solid. So like really at this point it's like Nintendo only really needs to like fill in a few dots of like is that Metroid Prime remaster a real thing? Is Bayonetta 3 still going to be this year? And then like the one thing I will admittedly say, I am currently very salivating. I'm hungry. I need to be fed some Mario Kart DLC, Nintendo, soon.
Yes, please.
Give me another 8 tracks. That's like, honestly, in some ways, that's something I want to know the most right now out of them. And that does not need to be a thing.
It's got to be soon, you know?
Yeah, it's got to be like, we like at this point, again, we said it's July 1st, like it's probably days away, more or less, at this point. And I think that's all I really want to know. And they could literally just at any time just like put a tweet out or put a YouTube video up and be like, here's the next 8 tracks. They're out this day. Boom. Like that doesn't need to be a whole direct, obviously. And that's kind of the things like, at this point, like, they could do another mini direct sometime in July, or maybe they just wait till the September direct and then have a big September direct. And that lets them talk about like, all right, here in November, here's Metroid Prime HD and Bayonetta in December, but now also we can talk about what's next year, and that's where we get maybe more Breath of the Wild information. Maybe we get more other game information of like what they have planned for next year. Like maybe now they're at this point they can just hold off till that to really do a big info dump for us, because then that lets them sprinkle in like smaller specific directs, like the Xenoblade directs. Like they could probably just do a Splatoon 3 specific direct in August, right before the main game that Splatoon 3 comes out. They could probably do another Pokemon. Always usually does their own directs. They could probably do another Pokemon company could just do their own Pokemon direct, which they usually do for information. Like that's literally what they did, I think, for our last episode. Is they put out their own little Pokemon direct and showed us more stuff for that. So like Nintendo's like kind of good for this year, and at this point, it's just it'd be nice to have some more details, like you said, like some info clarifications, or kind of get an idea. Like you're right, like it definitely would be nice to get some of that stuff, but like we don't necessarily need it right now, in my opinion. So I can kind of just live with it as long as they give me Mario Kart DLC news right now.
Yeah, it's got to be soon. Like you said, I am definitely expecting that announcement this month, at least at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's one of those things too. Like everybody's having a rough year,
Yes,
Sony and
that too,
and Microsoft
100%.
don't have a lot of games coming out this year.
Microsoft does not
either.
Even Sony, like we have this weird uphill battle of like God of War's not delayed. People stop going crazy. And now, devs are getting harassed over something so stupid that's going to be forgotten once this game just like is out. Like it's so stupid. And like everybody, like you said, everybody's kind of going through it right now at all the companies in different smaller ways and or bigger ways. It is what it is. And I think Nintendo is just fine at the end of the day. We can live without a direct for a little longer, and we still have plenty of games to play, which we'll talk about later in this episode. Because I've been playing plenty of games, maybe not the big Nintendo games everybody wants, but there's tons of cool indie stuff in other things as well. But that's where Nintendo stands. We do have a couple more other news bits I want to talk about, mostly self-indulgent news topics. But they are related.
This is our self-indulgent segment.
Self-indulgent news segment. But also at the same time, like these will be games that still are coming to Nintendo Switch. So if you're more listening to this and maybe more into Nintendo stuff and maybe not into these games, you can look at the timestamps and skip ahead or whatever. But the first one is my dreams. My dreams are real. Now this was the moment where I felt I could truly dream again about video games, and that was the confirmation that Dragon's Dogma 2 is in development at Capcom. It's official. I get it was leaked, and there was like that big NVIDIA leak, like what was it, like So it's years ago at this point, and that was like a big thing. And then Dragon's Dogma 2's name was in that, and so people have just been like, whatever. But like that literally like doesn't matter. Like me personally, like something that small like does not matter to me personally, because it's like there's no official confirmation. This could just be like database entries for a thing from like 20 years from now, and literally even to this point, like that was like multiple years ago, and now we're not seeing them Capcom confirming it themselves till literally a couple weeks ago.
I want to say, just because the manipulation of time here is wild. The NVIDIA leak was September 2021, which is just.
I didn't realize it was that recent. Good lord!
It's just the warping of time.
Yeah,
feels like
I thought that was like.
ago.
I thought that was like. I know.
Me too. I was like, that was like, I don't know.
I thought that was like sometime in like 2019 or like early 2020 or something. Good lord! So that wasn't that long ago. So maybe okay. That is a little bit of a different thought process then on that.
But it feels like it's been that long ago.
It feels
so
like it's been
valid.
way longer. And like, granted, that's for this point, boy, again, time. That's almost been a year since then.
Yeah, almost a year still. So it's still significant.
And even then, like literally, all they did was the director and like some of the higher ups on the team unzip some jackets and just reveal the Dragon's Dogma 2 logo on their shirts, and just did the shirt reveal and a logo reveal at the end of the 10th anniversary little video they did for Dragon's Dogma.
Yeah. It was still powerful.
It was still powerful. It was
wholesome direct as well with the 10th anniversary of the first game.
Yeah, celebrating that game, that like, and I'm happy that it got some. They gave it that recognition, even regardless of it being a single game and a single franchise. But again, it is like to like, again, to Capcom in some ways that probably is like equivalent to like their like Skyrim. That's really what that game has always kind of been sort of pitched as, even though it is like a very different beast in some regards to what you would expect from a big Bethesda RPG. But that's a game that was near and dear to me. Like literally, I don't know if I've said it on this podcast, but I've said it on others in the previous. Like I have bought that game as of this announcement 9 times. Because it came out.
You can.
Yeah, especially because I ended up buying it again on PS5 digitally. Because when they announced this, and like it was on like super sale. I think it might still be on like a bunch of consoles. So like literally it was like $5, and I was like, I can own this digitally on my PS5, and I probably will replay that game again. It's because it is one of the few games I replay every so often and play through and enjoy a lot. But yeah, like just the idea. And again, they've given a little few details. Like obviously they didn't give really any time frames. So like this game could still be years away, really. But a very exciting detail they gave was it is an RE engine, which obviously has been the more recent kind of engine they've been using for all of their like Resident Evil games and like the Monster Hunter games, and like boy, just to think of like
Street Fighter 6,
an open world RPG, action RPG like Dragon's Dogma with the combat and the skills and like all the zaniness and absurdity that was in Dragon's Dogma, but now like in that graphical style and with like way more modern technologies, and like the chances of there being stuff like online multiplayer and co-op and stuff. There's just like my mind runs wild with the ideas of what that game can be, and it's just so exciting to finally at least know that they're working on it, and like they at least have said like this game is coming, and like yes, it is official. Like Dragon's Dogma 2 is a thing, and a game we are going to put out someday, and like man, can't freaking wait. Like it's gonna be so awesome.
Yeah, it's good vibes. It's definitely like been a long wait, but it's when they were talking about in that 10th anniversary celebration, like how the director of the game like got thrown on Devil May Cry 2, and then it's like, well, I have to make this right now, so then he had to go make Devil May Cry 3, which is really funny. And he's had the idea for this game forever, and they didn't have the technology to do it. And he really wanted to like be climbing in it and hurting giant monsters, which again, the way they do it in that game is definitely like very unique and novel in a really good way that uplifts the rest of that game. And so to know all that and to think of like where they would want to go with the sequel, like obviously bigger stuff and
go bigger,
way more action and probably to perform better and stuff like that. I'm really excited to see where that ambition goes.
Yeah, and even like, you know, something that didn't come over here, but like something you can kind of see for reference of, like, there was a MMO RPG Dragon's Dogma Online that was only out in Japan. It was shut down, like it like ran for like a couple years, but I think it shut down in like 2019 or so is when I was looking it up recently, like, what's the status of that thing? And yeah, they shut the servers down. But even in that game, like, that evolved that game quite a bit, because obviously it's an MMO, so it's online and you can group up and play with people. Like you said, way more action. Like, you know, it's very reminiscent of the most recent Monster Hunter Rise with like the wire bugs and zipping around. Like that game had that stuff where you're literally you can watch gameplay of that game and kind of see that, like, probably that tech that was used in Dragon's Dogma Online is used in like current Monster Hunter. So like being able to like bring that forward, and probably it'll go crisscross of like, they probably use some of this stuff to like kind of revitalize some of the current Monster Hunter stuff going on. So now they can use a lot of the current Monster Hunter stuff to revitalize whatever's going on in Dragon's Dogma 2. And that's gonna be pretty awesome. There's a lot more classes and different kinds of characters you could play as in Dragon's Dogma Online. So like, I'm assuming at least, cool. I'm kind of hoping that like at least some of that stuff kind of can live on through a full Dragon's Dogma 2. But obviously probably with like a ton of more new stuff and a lot more things going on. Like, again, like, I think some kind of online multiplayer or co-op would be really freaking cool in that world. Like, even in the current Dragon's Dogma, that would be super fun. But like, that idea that's the number one thing, having that in a bigger world, and with like more people, and just thinking of like the ridiculousness of like four people just like straddling this monster and just stabbing it, and just, while it's like trying to soar around in the sky, and like, you know, trying to grapple up to it and stuff, and doing all kinds of crazy things. Like, it could be potentially such a cool experience.
There's definitely like a good place for that game to still be single player because, or have that option, because obviously the pawn system is so integral to that game. It's novel, and I'm sure it will still be there, but there's just too much opportunity to have give players the option to like just go to the pawn portal and just grab another player instead, and be like, all right, let's group up and climb on some monsters together. It would be too much fun. You know, they got to do it. So I'm stoked for sure.
For sure. But that's pretty exciting. I'm definitely looking forward to it, but that's still probably ways off.
That's gonna be my like Elden Ring to you, Mike. I'm gonna have you come in to clutch the final boss, because I'm gonna be fucking stuck.
Yes,
for sure. There it is. So look forward to that.
I'm very curious where to Dragon's Dogma 2 lands in a post Elden Ring world, because I feel like Elden Ring is like obviously a big evolution of open world games most recently, and like playing Elden Ring was definitely giving me the same feelings I would have had in a hopefully what I would have wanted out of like a more current Dragon's Dogma. So like the idea of that game finally happening, but now also being like Elden Ring just happened, and Capcom can look at that game and be like, oh yeah, here's some ideas.
Yeah, I'm sure they were inspired for sure. They will be when the game comes out.
Yes. So I'm very much looking forward to that game so much. Another big news drop. Your self-indulgent news drop that literally happened almost at the exact same time, because literally both these presentations dropped at the same time. Was
terrible idea.
Final Fantasy VII got like a whole bunch of 25th anniversary news.
Square Enix has learned how to do anniversaries, which is exciting, because Lord knows Nintendo hasn't. So it's very relevant.
Was the Final Fantasy VII like port at like they did like some PSP like PlayStation show. What are they, the one they used to do? Like
it was
like,
PSX, PlayStation Experience.
PSX. That's what I was thinking of.
No,
that wasn't another. Yeah, because those aren't during the summer, so that wasn't during like an anniversary of any kind, right?
They had like it might have been like some kind of February thing, or it was that previous year's PSX where the president of Square at the time.
It's like, here's what you wanted.
Here's Final Fantasy VII ported, and then please be excited for E3, which is now like infamous.
Yep.
And then at E3 they announced like Kingdom Hearts 3 and Final Fantasy VII remake, and it was buck wild. People were literally throwing chairs around in the game trailer's office. It happened.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, like they did the Kingdom Hearts 4 anniversary or Kingdom Hearts anniversary earlier this year, where they announced Kingdom Hearts 4. Much to my surprise, I was because Square is like so historically terrible at this stuff.
Yep.
That I literally was staying up to see if potentially they announced Kingdom Hearts 4, and I went to bed because I convinced myself
It's
it's not gonna happen.
They ain't doing it.
Don't get your hopes up. It's not real. And it was real. I was obviously wonderful. I was so happy.
Yep.
But going into the Final Fantasy VII event, they were like, it's 10 minutes. You're going to want to be there. And like everybody, like all the Square Enix, like PR people on Twitter were like, you're going to want to have reactions up for this one.
Get ready.
So we kind of had an inkling.
Yeah.
But the surprise for me generally was Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion, which is coming to Switch.
Yeah.
And everything. PS4, Xbox Series, and PS5. And that's great. It is like a weird remakester. It's in that kind of territory where it seems like the camera has been all done. The combat seems to have been touched up a lot. And it looks a lot better, but it is still that game. New voice actors. They're bringing in the new Zack from Final Fantasy VII Remake.
I wonder how he's going to say Gongaga. How's he going to say
that's I'm very excited to find out. I'll tell you what. People are not
Gongaga.
like some people are worried after the trailer that they put out, but I think like in full it'll be fine because I do think he does a great job in the few scenes we've seen in the remake.
You know, and I was gonna say, fucking Tetsuya Nomura, like that's intentional. Like, they're gonna set up more weird ass shit in this new Final Fantasy VII universe thing, whatever the hell they're doing.
Yeah,
like that's intentional.
And, it will have a tease in there for sure. And then obviously they announced Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which is the part 2 of this now trilogy. We know for sure. Be cool. Obviously, that hasn't even come to Xbox. It would be cool to see that come to Switch in some cloud capacity.
Cloud version of those two could be, potentially.
And I'm sure it'll happen at some point whenever it does end up coming to Xbox. I don't think Sony owns that forever because Square Enix likes money, and Lord knows they need it after selling half their company away. But yeah, it was good. It was good all around. Square Enix has definitely like come back up from a pretty bad place, similar to Capcom. Having like
at least hopefully they are. We will still see. They're trending in a direction for sure.
They keep talking about how Final Fantasy VII Remake is like going really well in the development. It's like going really quickly, and they're really pleased with how it's going. And I guess we won't really know what that means until we see that Rebirth game. Like if that ends up coming out next winter, like they said, then great. And it is good, then great. Then I think it's safe to say that they're on that upspin. But they've got a lot of cool stuff cooking that I'm stoked about. But play Crisis Core. It's a great game. Yeah, and that'll be, like you said, it'll be on Switch this year as well as other stuff. Well, this winter, potentially this year. Oh, true. That did not give a specific date on that. Could be February. It feels like a good February game, to be honest. Coming soon. And that's cool. Like, did they announced that other like Final Fantasy VII thing that's just mobile at the moment, right? Yeah, Ever Crisis is just mobile, but that would be cool. They showed more of that as well, which is like the essentially Final Fantasy VII original style version of all of the anthology. Because I could see them eventually doing a console version of that, because that's what they did with that 15. I remember they did that with 15. Yeah, Pocket Edition. Mm-hmm. And it looks it's very reminiscent of that. And it's like the OG Final Fantasy VII. It is not the remake altered kind of version of it, and it will also have Crisis Core, which they finally showed. Like, in Crisis Core will be in the style of OG Final Fantasy VII, which is pretty cool. I assume that for those other games, they might have like little hints and nods to the mechanics of the other stuff. But apparently that's going to include Before Crisis, which is like the previous mobile game prequel, and Dirge of Cerberus and Advent Children, like in some capacity in that game, which would be like the only playable form of Advent Children, for example. So I'd be very curious what it ends up finally being, but it's only going into beta this year, so we'll see. Gotcha. Yeah. So stuff's happening with that. The Final Fantasy VII stands can rejoice. Everybody wins. Persona wins. Dragon's Dogma wins. Final Fantasy VII wins. Final Fantasy wins. We're eating. We
Wario
don't have a lot of
doesn't
video
fart
games.
though, so Wario fans are.
Yeah, exactly.
try.
Wario fans are heartbroken for sure. I am heartbroken. We didn't get E3, but we certainly got plenty of video game news.
Yes, yeah, it's still a lot of exciting news, and stuff to look forward to. Even though maybe would have liked to see maybe a little bit more from Nintendo, but they still got a lot of stuff. And our last kind of news story here, which you already talked about, which I already brought up a little bit. Again, I have a news article here up to talk about it more, so we can talk about it more. This is a GameSpot article from Devante Chisholm. Hopefully I said that last name correctly. Jeff Grubbs, Giant Bomb's Jeff Grubbs, and his Game Morning Show. Also, this is where that originally came from, and then they're rating it up on GameSpot. He has heard pretty definitively, as he puts it, that a remaster of Metroid Prime, the GameCube hot hit, is pretty definitively going to be one of Nintendo's big holiday 2022 releases. Probably in that November timeframe, because that is the 20th anniversary of Metroid Prime. Again, it is just a remaster of the first game. The other two games won't be like a trilogy pack, but now this kind of will he says it'll kind of lay the ground so they can kind of have the road to Metroid Prime 4, presumably, right? Where you can have Metroid Prime come out this holiday, and then 2 and 3 will probably, I guess, this is me just kind of guesstimating, is maybe those two come out over the course of next year, and then maybe in 2024 we finally get our Metroid Prime 4. That would be my guess as well, but you never know.
It could be 2025 when we get one game a year. You truly can't take Metroid for granted.
Totally. Yeah, that's totally a possibility as well. But man, would this be an awesome thing to happen if it truly does happen? And like Jeff Grubb and I'm definitely a fan of his, not just recently at Giant Bomb, but even him at Games Beat. They have a great podcast, and he's done a lot of good reporting. And he's been pretty solid on a lot of stuff, like the Kojima project. He has been harping on that for quite some time but that was over at Xbox. He was correct on that, and he's been correct on a lot of things. So this seems like it is pretty likely. It's just not officially termed yet that it will be this year, but he is pretty confident about it. So that seems like it's a thing that'll at least happen eventually. That'd be really exciting.
There's also I think we talked about it last episode. There's that Fire Emblem game that exists, right? Like that's done.
Yes, that's that's done, and like literal images have leaked on the internet.
Have leaked of like what it looks like. They could just drop that anytime, and that could be this year too. Which leads more credence to what I was talking about before of like Nintendo probably could do their own like direct, maybe a mini one of like, hey, here's Metroid Prime, here's Zelda remaster. We still like that. That's a thing that's also been floating around.
Yep.
Or they could hold these things for when they need them. They like you said before, they don't really need them this year. They could probably use them, sure, but they don't need them.
Yeah.
So why not just kind of keep them in the chamber?
Yeah, totally. Like those are things that could come. Some of these things are things that could drop this year, because why not? Or they could be things that drop or fill out next year, because we don't know anything about next year, obviously, and being able to be like, hey, here's another Fire Emblem game next year. Here's the Zelda combo. Like those are easily things they could just kind of slot wherever at this point.
They're evergreen video games, truly.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
I love what we're hearing about this Metroid Prime game. It sounds more like a full remake, same game, like a shot-for-shot remake, almost like Demon's Souls from a few years ago.
Yep. But
like really given the proper treatment. Obviously, like if you've never played it, Metroid Prime, and the shame of the world is that the GameCube didn't do well, and a lot of people didn't get to play Metroid Prime, which was the previously best-selling Metroid game until Dread, which has still again only like sold 2.5 million games, which is also a gosh dang travesty.
Yes. Absolutely.
But if you've never played it, especially like a new, pretty big, great looking one, like at the time, that was like one of it was that for the GameCube. It was 60 FPS. It
Mm-hmm.
was like one of the best looking games ever at that point. It's obviously
Yep.
very stylized, but it looks incredible. The art design and art direction of it is amazing. Like still, I replayed that last year. You know, we talked about it back
Yep.
then when I was kind of going into Dread. I replayed all of them, and Metroid Prime, like standalone, is just one of the best Metroidvanias that exists. So
Yep. Agreed.
I would be so happy. It's to Persona 5 if this game had that kind of blow up experience where it's like, no, it's coming out again, getting the treatment again. It's still as good as the first day it came out 20 freaking years ago.
Yep.
And you got to play it. And I would
Yes.
love that. I would be so happy. I'm sure they're going to charge $60 for it, which
Yes,
is kind of
60,
a bummer.
60
but
US dollars. I mean, my definite hope is, like you said, like hearing that it's going to be like a bigger kind of treatment. Hopefully, maybe it's not just kind of making it a HD, literal HD port of like it's just kind of they up-resed everything. It sounds like there will be a little bit more to it than that.
Yeah.
What I think would be really cool is, like, again, that idea of the road to Metroid Prime 4 is like they don't need to completely retell, like not in terms of like we're gonna change story stuff or we're gonna change this or that. It's like maybe change like maybe how the game feels to play a little bit. Like maybe have it be a little bit more modern. Like it's not Z targeting. Maybe it is like more like a proper dual joystick analog shooter, which like will probably maybe be a little like maybe to like hardcore players be a little bit of a like juxtaposition. But I personally think like they kind of have to do that because I don't think it's gonna be like that in Metroid Prime 4. So like they have to kind of start sowing that seed now, I think. And that's a great way to do it by reintroducing that first game and putting it on Switch in a modern context, doing a lot of like updated work to make it probably look a lot more visually interesting and impressive than a GameCube game. Granted, like you said, I agree. It was a very, for the time, it was a really good looking game and still is a pretty cool visual style, and there's a whole aesthetic to that game that just works still. But I think they could do a lot with a HD update, and have this modern retro. I'm assuming it's retro that's doing the update. Like
we don't know yet.
They're clearly have been working on Metroid Prime 4 for a while, and they had to restart well, I think it was a different team and then
it was an internal Nintendo studio, and then they had to restart
with retro. So probably clearly when they restart with retro, probably an idea was like let's maybe in times while we're working on this take the time to revisit those previous games and put them out on modern consoles and reintroduce those games with our ideas for like a modern Metroid Prime with modern shooter controls. And that could be really cool.
And I'm definitely of the belief that they don't have a choice. Like they really have to, because I said when I replayed them last year, like that even if it might be weird for some people, like I much prefer the Wii versions of that game because you get the kind of equivalent at the time for Nintendo of twin stick controls of moving and looking with the pointer. Like Metroid Prime does not feel like a first person shooter like as you would probably think of it. There's no dual stick, you're using the C stick to change beams. You have to there's no strafing. You have to lock on to strafe and stuff. It would be weird, and I think it would be poorly received. I think there's a little bit of rose tinted glasses for the GameCube version of it to some extent, where that Wii version, the trilogy came out and was a much better way to play it. It was just a lot smoother. But it's an awkward feeling game by modern standards. So if they manage to make it like a true twin stick game with some, just put some generous auto aim and aim assist and stuff, Destiny has figured this out. And I know we play a lot of Destiny, so maybe I'm ruined by that game.
Yeah.
But there's a way to have that kind of loosey goosiness of it with some aggressive aim assist where you can have the lock on stuff, but have a little bit more freedom in it, because it's definitely it feels kind of tight. But maybe it's Resident Evil, the OG Resident Evil, where people are it needs to be like this. So we'll see how that, if Retro's handling the remaster,
or give the options, right? Have a control scheme that is the classic scheme, and you play it like Metroid, how it originally plays on GameCube, and then maybe have a motion control, gyro control version, and then have this newer maybe it's a hybrid of those, right? Of
Yeah.
whatever they end up doing. Like, I think there will be something new in that regard of how it controls and plays, because like they're making Metroid Prime 4, and like that game is going to be a modern controlling game. Like they're going to try and probably bank it on like not everybody that's going to be jumping in this for the first time has played that entire trilogy and was playing those games on GameCube, and like have those GameCube control memories. Like they're going to play it to a modern video game audience who plays modern shooting video games like Fortnite and like Destiny and like the stuff that's been modern shooter games for years now. So like it's gonna have updates. So
yeah, I'm stoked to see what they are.
I'm yeah, that would be such an exciting get. Even though it's like just like I get it's like it's not for like the game's still cooking, but like getting more Metroid in general and like a remake of like that's probably still one of like I would still consider that probably like one of my favorite Metroid game still in some way, shape, or form.
I got Dread last year. If I get Prime this year, I'm
eaten
on cloud 9.
Yeah.
I would never. 4 years ago, if you told me I'd be getting 2 Metroid games back to back in 2 separate years, I wouldn't have believed you. So,
yeah.
And yeah, Metroid Dread was my game of the year last year for sure. So
absolutely,
give me more. I'll take it.
Yep. But yeah, but I think that's our news, Nintendo news for the
good news
for the thing. Yeah, it was you know, again, we did not get our titular Nintendo Direct, but you know, still a lot of news happened. Still a lot. It was still that summer news dump. We still got plenty of stuff to talk about, and there's still actually like, even though it's June and we're in the summer months, like a lot of video games came out.
It's sparse for the next couple months, but there's a lot of cool
I think like July and August will be a little bit more lulls, but like, you know, there's a couple things.
I'll be chewing on what I got, you know, what we just kind of got.
There's a couple things in July that I want to check out, but it's not. Yeah, they are not like, they're not going to be games I'm playing for an extended period of time by any means. But here's some stuff we got in June that I've been playing. I'll start us off. I played some Mario Strikers Battle League. That came out. That video game came out like.
Yeah, we did our 100th viewpoints on it. Yeah.
Our 100th viewpoints video that we've done with me and you.
I'm gonna ask you, Mike. How many of the 100 viewpoints do you think that you're on? Because my bet is probably like 92.
Yeah, that's probably pretty close. Because like I can probably
I can name I can definitely 3. I've done that you weren't at.
Yes, yeah, and I was gonna say I probably could count on my hands how many I haven't been on one of those. Granted, it's like a thing I started as like the video guy here. So
just to give you the props that you deserve, you crushed it.
Thank you.
I did
a weird video series. Yeah, that I started as a like, oh god, my life is on fire, and I can't really commit time to as much things as I like normally doing for this site. So I made a super easy video series, but it's still
fun to do.
Yeah, but there's still a lot of fun. It's just us hanging out, playing a video game, usually a newly released one or recently released one. So yeah, always feel free to check those out.
Hey, I did. There was East 9, and Deathloop, and then
you guys you did like a DLC of some game. I think it was like you and Quinn. I remember that one because I remember I still had to help like upload or do something for that one. So I remember that one. But then there's I think there are other ones, but
it's got to be a short list.
I've definitely helmed the ship on that series, but it's a lot of fun. I still enjoy doing this. But yeah, we did the 100th one for Mario Strikers Battle League, and I will be completely honest and say that's probably the last time I played that game. It kind of
I was really into what we saw, but it still has the problems of Strikers, you know.
Yeah, it's kind of the sentiment that I think I still kind of mentioned in that video of like, that game came out and it feels like it's already kind of went, and it's not even been a month since it's out. And
it does. Granted, also feel like a GameCube game.
Yes, it has some updated control schemes, and like they tried to do like a lot of what the more recent sports games have done, of like kind of adding these like slightly smaller mechanics that are maybe like a little bit more technical to try and make it like, you know, this more like you can play it at a higher level if you want to, because you know that's the the strategy that has worked a lot very well for some Nintendo games, a la like Smash Brothers and like Splatoon. But like I
Yeah.
think this game did not need as much of that and needed more of the like bombastic fun stuff of a like Mario Kart.
Yeah.
And even though this game
was
got some of that too, like it straight up has Mario Kart items in it, which I don't remember.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's wild that those
I
are
don't
there.
think that was in the GameCube version, but I remember now looking
It
it
was
up.
not.
It was in those were in the Wii version. And
Okay.
and apparently even from the Wii version they like toned down some of the items because that version had like way more like Mario Kart items. Apparently, like you could get like stars and other things like that. Where this one is just like it's like turtle shells from Mario Kart, and they work like the turtle shells from Mario Kart, the red and green shells. You can get bananas.
The bombs are in there.
Bomb
I
bombs
think,
are in
right?
there, and then I think there's one other thing, but I'm forgetting it. But yeah, and there's like supercharged shots like the previous games, and those are the very very animated, and like the thing like I will say is like again this is from like the same studio that made those original games, and more recently made Luigi's Mansion 3, which is probably still, in my opinion, still one of like the best looking games on Switch. Like this follows that up pretty well of like visually and like from an animation and like kind of like stylistic artistic perspective. Like this game is great. Like all the animations for the characters look really great. Even like when they're just, even when it's not like a close up animation, like little cutscene of them, like even when you're just running on the field and like doing attacks and stuff, they look great. Like, and there's like fun little callbacks like Wario. When he goes to tackle somebody, he straight up does like a Wario Land like arm charge, shoulder charge into people, and he like literally just holds the ball and runs around like Bowser.
Yeah, he just holds the ball with his bare ass hand. It's so ridiculous.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Like Bowser, like he does like moves like for his tackles. He does moves from like Smash Bros. Where he like gets in his shell and like spins around and stuff. And there's like a bunch of little like neat little things like that like work for the game. But then you like start actually playing it, and it's just kind of like okay, yeah. And it's like it feels like it's just I don't know, like there's just something to it, like it's just not grabbing me. Like some of the advanced stuff like feels like it matters but doesn't really matter in a way to me where I'm like if I were to I think I'm also just not the type of person who's like gonna get super hardcore into like these particular online Nintendo games per se. So like thinking of the idea of like me being like, I'm gonna get super serious and get on my Mario Strikers online game and rank up. Like there's not any like that tier of stuff online. It's just you go online, you play against people, and you get randomly starts up, and there's some kind of like tournament league thing that goes. But like I don't really know what you get from that other than like you probably get some coins. And you can get some more coins to get the gear in the game. Like you're not really like unlocking stuff from that because there's not really any bunch of stuff to unlock. You're not like unlocking a character or unlocking like a new like map or anything like that. Like there's not really any kind of that stuff in there either. So it's just kind of like it feels like if you're not all the way in for like that kind of like wanting to play online against other people playing Mario Strikers. Or like have some kind of friend group that maybe is really into it, and maybe you'll play regularly with. Like I have no desire to really just like sit down and play this compared to a lot of other games. That's kind of where I'm
like
at.
Seeing it like when we went through it. There's like 5 tournaments or whatever, and then that's the end of the single player portion of the game.
Yep. And then you can just battle bots, and those bots can like super suck to go against sometimes.
Absolutely wreck your whole world. It's just it is like when I say it's like a GameCube game, right? Like that's what GameCube games were. It's just I don't know. And to be fair, it isn't just like this game that struggles with it. Like I think the Evil Dead game that came out recently, similar thing. Like anytime it's like a multiplayer video game, I feel like you really just. It's just so we're oversaturated to a point that's like crazy, and like kind of like you and me, like we have our multiplayer game. We play Destiny, for example, and there's maybe a couple other things on that list that I would throw in there, but that's like the capacity of a person, So these games that just have nothing else going for them, which isn't to say that they're bad. There's just like you don't have a lot of options. It's hard to pick that game over anything else,
Yep, exactly. Yeah, and for sure. And it's like, and it's even the difficulty of like, there's absolutely a place for like if Nintendo actually went the route, and I know maybe this would be unpopular to some people, but like if they went the route of making one of these bigger their multiplayer games a service game that goes over time, I would probably be way into it and be playing it all the time. Like if they did it for Mario Kart, absolutely 100%, I'd be like going in it. I'd be like playing that. Like I'd be jumping in to do my weeklies or whatever the hell, whatever thing they want to set up, or unlocking my battle pass to get some dumb Mario stickers or whatever the fuck it is. Like I'd probably get into it. Even like Splatoon,
you know?
Splatoon has had some stuff like that, but not as much. Like it's had kind of online.
Yeah.
It has like online multiplayer, and it has like an actual rank like, you know, casual and ranked like differentiation, and you're unlocking stuff. The salmon run mode that they introduced in Splatoon 2 had like a progression system of like, hey, when you're doing these things, those like golden like fish eggs you're collecting and like turning in will then like however many you do, and in a run, so to speak, you will like be able to cash out, and then you will like essentially level up like a very limited battle pass equivalent that was in there, and you would get like, you know, outfits and skins and other things like that.
Yeah.
So like,
and
there's games that have had that stuff in Nintendo games, but like there's you know, obviously they're not gonna be able to do it for every single game they put out, but
yeah,
I think
it's a smaller approach for sure too. And I hope Splatoon 3 has more of that stuff, because that would keep me playing Splatoon versus just like playing a little bit and then kind of never coming back to it.
Yeah.
And Salmon Run's cool. I think they were too limited on like the limited time things.
Yes.
If it was like the whole weekend, every weekend, you know, it's Salmon Run time, I think that would totally work, kind of like, to use the Destiny comparison, in like Trials of Osiris or something. Like,
yep.
It doesn't have to be competitive, right? But it could just be like every weekend, Salmon Run weekend.
There's a special thing going on. You jump in and check it out. Yes.
It'll get people to show up, I think, because then you don't feel that pressure to play it. Otherwise, if that's what you like to play in Splatoon, is just the co-op mode. I think also the other approach is like if Mario Strikers was like $30 instead,
yes,
right? Like
totally. Yep.
Like $30, because then more people will buy it, because why not? You know, because people like Strikers.
Lower barrier to entry. Yes.
Lower barrier to entry, more people online, and then it's not as huge a deal that it's kind of a bare bones thing, because it is, you're budgeting it for what it is. And I think that's fine. I think like more big video game studios need to be comfortable with doing that, because otherwise these games are just going to keep coming out and being unsuccessful. Like if Metroid Dread, it is worthy of $60 in my heart and heart of hearts, but I think if it was $40, more people would have bought it. Yep. And less people would have complained about that aspect of it. Even if they're wrong, it's fine.
Yes.
But you know, just
100%.
to try and make these games as successful as they can be. You know.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. I'm 100% with you with there. Like, especially if they're like on this slightly lower tier. Like I think like those Mario sports games, as much as I like them, like they, especially in these Switch iterations.
We've done this song and dance before.
Yes, these Switch iterations have been felt pretty lackluster, and they have, in fairness, they have updated them post launch with some stuff, but it was not a lot, and it was not stuff that's like worthy enough to be like
no Smash Bros.
Drive it.
You know,
yeah,
Smash Bros.
It's not Smash. It's not Smash. It's not even like Mario Kart with like here's 48 tracks for $25. It's like here's. Or Smash, like those were paid updates, to be fair, where like this stuff is like all free updates.
Yeah, which both work. I
nice,
think if
nice,
you,
but yes, it's like it
are
did
on
not
top
do a
of
lot.
it. Yeah, it's just it's clear that like parts of Nintendo get it. Like obviously, you know, we've talked a lot about Sakurai is a big pillar in Smash Brothers that makes that difference. But like, you know, doing 12 or 11 DLC characters, I guess 12 total for Smash is like a no-brainer. Absolutely knocked it out of the park. They nailed it. The hype was great. They did it. It didn't overstay its welcome. It like stayed the perfect amount of time. They went out on top. And Smash is like, it has the advantage of being like one of those games that transcends like local multiplayer or online. It's like it'll always be relevant in its own way. But yeah, just either go all in like that game did, and like Mario Kart 8 is doing, which is great as well.
Yeah,
it took them long enough, but we got there eventually.
But they got there, yes, for sure.
Guess what? Enough people kept buying that game. It didn't matter when they did it.
It's awesome. Very that's like its own. Yeah, and that's the thing of like, in fairness, like these two games are definitely like anomalies to themselves. Where like you know, I think they're definitely when you you probably would go a couple steps down for like a Mario Strikers or even Mario Tennis or Golf. Like these are definitely games that are on a slightly lower level, so I get that, like, they are probably not going to get the bigger budgets and the longer life term support per se. But in that same vein, like you were saying, like that, like if they're not going to get that, then like it's okay to maybe bring them down a level and make them like $40 games that get a couple free updates, and then they will definitely
or put them on
feel
Game
the
Pass.
yeah. With Nintendo Online,
only it was that simple.
Yeah, if it finally gets there one day, and those would be totally fine Game Pass games.
Because you got to remember, like for Strikers, you got to pay for the multiplayer too.
Yeah, it's a $60 game. Yeah, and the multiplayer. Yeah, if you want to play online in that game, you have to play. You have to have Nintendo Switch Online. But yeah, it's definitely like you said, it's not a bad game, but it's definitely was very just the middle of the road for me.
It's fine.
So I think it'll just be a game that I forget about in a few months, basically, until they randomly just go, hey, here's DLC, free DLC character, boom, there you go. But another thing that recently came out, I want to finally hear from you that you played a little bit of, something about some Monster Hunter Sunbreak.
Yes, I've played so little of it. I'm sad that I couldn't get more time into it.
And fairly, it like just came out. It's like literally like a day after.
Yeah, it came out yesterday.
So yeah.
But there was like that, and then I got Cuphead, which I can also talk a little bit about.
Excellent.
Got a code from our good friend George over at Pop Agenda. So
thank you, George.
Also, speaking of George, we should have mentioned it before. In the mini direct, they announced a remake of Pac World, which is
Pac-Man repack. That is
one of the wildest pulls of ever, and it looks like a GameCube game. It looks great, though. I have a lot of weird nostalgia for that game.
GameCube stands are eating this year.
Yeah,
in
George
terms of remakes.
Cruz was stoked.
I was gonna say I honestly might get that too, because it's like August.
Me too.
If it's like if it's like a $30-$40 thing, I'll probably like,
if
sure.
That's appropriately priced, I will absolutely show up, because I played that game when I was younger. I never beat it because it's very difficult for a young person like me. Shout out to that game. So Sunbreak. I like all of they showed this game way too much. I don't know if you felt it when they showed it in the partner direct of like, this is the death loop of Nintendo games. Like, this is the 30th time I've seen this game. I get it. There's a bad monster. Castles.
Kill some monsters. Yes. I feel like that's all Monster Hunter. To be fair, there's like a billion trailers for Monster Hunter. Every video game they put out.
Yeah. I was maybe keyed into it too much this time, because I actually love Rise. Like that's like one of my favorite games from last year. And I got into it way more than I did World, just because some of the quality of life stuff that they did really clicked with me. And it's funny because like the first thing you see when you boot up Sunbreak is like they've patched in and updated, like with this major update, because I played it relatively recently. They've added like more quality of life stuff. It's like, hey, if you're full on equipment in the world, we'll put it in your Palamutes patch.
Nice.
Pouch, and then it'll just go to your chest when you get back. So like you don't run into that like, all right, I guess I'm full on honey.
Yeah,
so I can't make more super potions. Yeah. When you're like out in the field and stuff, which is great. Like there's a bunch of other little things, like managing your Palamutes and stuff is a little bit more streamlined. The whole new area that they have, because there's obviously many new regions that I haven't even seen yet. But there's also like a new hub area, like a secondary town, basically, which is really cool. It's like up against like these kind of mountains in this almost like oil station in the middle of the ocean vibe, but it's like wood. It's like a wood dock, in like a broken down castle. Very cool. It's everything is like way closer together there, so you don't have to kind of run around to go to the blacksmith and run around to go to the shopkeeper. Like you don't feel like you're going as many places. It's all kind of next to each other, which is nice. But yeah, I did the first hunt, and they've made it really clear in all the promo material. There's always like that caveat of like, and you have to have hit monster rank 7 and finished this quest in order to even activate this, which is like 36 hours into the game. So all these people are like, oh, I can't wait to jump into Sunbreak. It's like, all right, well, actually, it's all right. I just gotta wake up my camera. I have to go do 36 hours of Monster Hunter real quick, and then I'll jump into it. But yeah, I was like I'm Hunter rank 38, I think, which like after you hit 7, it just like you get them like levels after you do quests and stuff. And you know, the max is like 99 or 999 or whatever. I don't know, because I didn't end up playing Iceborne for World. I don't know if you did.
Yeah, that's where I kind of stopped. Monster they
kind of reset your rank once you get to the new area to its master rank, so you're not upgrading your hunter rank anymore. But that helps them. You come back down to 1-star master rank hunts, and then I presume you'll go up to 7, and then after you beat it, you'll go into the post game where it's just like hunter ranks, where you just kind of like level up infinitely at that point. But yeah, they reset you at master rank, that you go on this kind of initial hunt, which is one in the first area. And the story is just like, I like it. It's very feels very convenient. Of the premise of Monster Hunter Rise is that every 50 years this rampage happens, and people don't know why. It just happens.
Monsters show up, yeah.
And then as you play the game and finish it, like you realize like there's like these 2 monsters that are like singing a song to each other that makes all the other monsters crazy, and that's why this is happening. Okay. There is another thing at this neighboring country that also happens every 50 years, and they don't know why. So it's just like literally beat for beat the same plot of the initial game. I don't know if there's like more intrigue. It's so convenient.
Honestly, honestly, yeah, that's pretty amazing. Like that feels very much like why do we keep making stories for these games? People get it. They're just here to beat up some monsters. Like fucking exactly. Whatever, man. Like,
it doesn't matter.
something happens. Some big monsters show up. Fucking just fight them. Whatever.
Yeah, it's fine. At the end of the day, whatever monsters are here, you go over here. There's also monsters here. There will probably be a big monster causing this 50-year thing. You know.
The food chain. You're gonna watch a cutscene of a big monster eating a tiny monster, but then an even bigger monster shows up and fucks them up.
Yep.
You're like, oh
that
shit!
That literally happens in the first missions.
that's literally every Monster Hunter trailer is like that scene happens, and it's like yes I'm in.
And it's good. It works. So you fight this like terrible. I hated fighting it, but it was good. It's a good monster, but it was very annoying. This like hermit crab monster that uses like a shell of like, it looks like a triceratops.
Interesting.
As like it's like a hermit crab that uses that as its hermit crab shell, and it like scuffles back and forth and shoots a water spray at you. I hadn't seen this monster in any of the trailers, which was very surprising. So it was totally. And Lord knows I've seen a lot of Monster Hunter Sunbreak trailers, like I said. So it was cool. It was definitely a really dynamic, fun fight. I had to spend I went back to Rise like 4 months after it came out last year. And it's like, all right, I got to go back to the training grounds and figure out how the goddamn switch axe works. I don't know. It's such a complicated weapon, but I love it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I warmed up, did that, went to the new area, and I haven't really done anything past that, unfortunately. I'll have probably more to say. Hopefully I'll have gotten through it by the time we reconvene again. But yeah, it's good. Monster Hunter Rise is extremely good. I know a lot of people were like, I don't want to play it on Switch. I'll say again, like, it runs
fine,
impressively well. Is very few dips, you know, even with 4 players. If there's multiple monsters that you're fighting at the same time, you might get some dips, but otherwise it is like a solid 30 always. They do a lot of great work. It's RE Engine, you know, it's just putting in that work. But yeah, look forward to Jarrett and Scott and I will be doing hunts on our group stream probably for the 2 weeks after this comes out, so, at least. So
nice.
There will be some Monster Hunter play.
Hunting.
I'll be getting more into it. But yeah,
excellent.
Very stoked for more.
Very, very cool. Yeah. It looks like a substantial update too, so I'm sure there'll be a lot to dig into.
Yes, it feels substantial, even just in the first mission.
That's pretty fun. Quick one here. I got. Again, I need to be satiated. I need my Mario Kart hit. Here, tapping it in. So I loaded up some Mario Kart Tour again because because again, I think this is a factor of, again, they're doing Mario Kart 8 DLC. So the updates have been much better to Mario Kart Tour in terms of like getting actually new tracks or new original tracks, specifically added into Tour. So literally this
Yeah.
week, they added a Bangkok track. It's Bangkok Rush. It's a Bangkok themed track. It's actually really fun. Like it's like a lot more. It's a much more dynamic track than I've seen in some of the other Tour stuff, because I know like some people are like not 100% in on like the Tour tracks that are in 8 at the moment, like the Paris and the Tokyo tracks, because they're kind of flat to some extent, where I will say like this track is a lot more dynamic than I was expecting, because it has this, it kind of opens and you like literally go into this river section, and like you don't go underwater, but you're still kind of like riding above the river, and you basically are like, there's like boats in the river that have like oars that are like ramps, so you're like ramping off like boats and stuff.
That's fun.
In that area, and you come out of that area and you get into like a street area that's like, or you first you go into like a like market, like, you know, like the wooden kind of market area, and you can either go like straight through the middle of it, or there's like these 2 wooden planks that like go up onto these roofs of the little things, so you can kind of ride up on those as well. And then it goes into the final area before you lap back around, and that is another similar area where there's like a lower road you can go onto, or you can go up a set of stairs which puts you on like a metro like train track. But if you go, you can go that way, and it's a little safer. You can go under the track, and on the bottom part of the track there are piranha plants that are like, they're like the ink ones, so they'll shoot up like big like blots of ink like onto parts of the road, like why, and you gotta like dodge them out of the way. So it's like a much more dynamic track than there's been in some of those Tour tracks before that I've tried out.
That does sound cool.
I've not played all of the original Tour tracks, but that one was a lot of fun, like even for that first one. And obviously if it's anything, if when it eventually comes to Mario Kart 8, it'll probably be like those other tracks where you like, that'll be the first lap, then the second lap will be through a new area. So I'm looking forward to that one getting there, but it probably won't be till way later in the Mario Kart DLC line. But that's fun. Again,
Yeah.
You know, Tour is like, it's fine for what it is. Again, there are admittedly some aspects of it that I like, that I wouldn't mind to see, like again in our previous discussion of a more live service oriented Nintendo online game. Like there's definitely some stuff in Tour that would be fun. Of like, I like that, like you can do multiplayer online races in it, and like there is like a ranking system of like when you do good or well in races, you'll get like a letter rank, and you'll like rank up and get rewards for doing that. Or you each day it'll like change like the kind of the items and like your kind of your stats. So like one day it'll be like, hey, one day it'll be like 150 cc and you have like access to 2 items. And then like every so often it goes through like a rotation of tracks. So it'll be like, hey, this is a cup of 4 tracks for like the next like 45 minutes. It'll be these tracks. But then once those 45 minutes end, you'll get to like another set of 4 tracks, and it'll kind of go through that stuff. So like there's a little bit more of that stuff going on, which I think is all right. But obviously it's also mobile game gotcha stuff. So it is what it is.
Yeah. It's cool. The tracks always sound cool. I wonder, conspiracy theory just real quick of I wonder if they're taking longer with the Mario Kart tracks because they're trying to add more original, like brand new ones.
Yeah,
after that feedback of the first one,
potentially, or like, you know, maybe like doing a slightly updated like visual pass, because I know there's a lot of people who are like not really into them updated Mario Kart Tour visuals as some of the stuff that's in there right now. So yeah, it's possible for sure. And I definitely think
just a conspiracy.
As there's definitely conspiracy, because we're definitely in that time frame of like, they want to have 8 tracks. They want to have literally 40 more tracks by the end of next year. I think we're definitely hitting that time of like, all right, if we have the time from March is when they put out the first set, and if we hit July now, the set of months I think would leave like we're literally hitting like November, December months if like they keep up that time. So they're imminent. I feel it.
Yeah, they could pull a Banjo-Kazooie on us too and announce two packs at the same time.
2 packs at the same time. It's always possible, for sure.
Always hyped.
Always hyped. I always need my Mario Kart fix now that we were getting more updates recently. So it's been pretty fun. And a game, another quick one I'll shout out. I've played a lot of actually. It feels like I played a lot, but I don't know how much there is to it. We're probably gonna do a viewpoints of this soon, so it might be out either by the time this video's out or it's out. It's called Little Noah, and I think it's in the Scion of Paradise. Hopefully that's the correct.
That sounds perfect.
Little Noah,
whatever it is.
Oh yeah,
I hope it's right.
I'll double check it. Yeah, Little Noah Scion of Paradise is what it is called.
Beautiful.
So this shadow dropped during the partner direct. So this is a Psy Games joint, aka the people who make they made Grand Blue Fantasy, that mobile game.
Yeah.
They made Dragalia Lost. Once I saw that, because once I started playing this game, and I did enjoy it. I was curious just because like it does have like some mobile game vibes to it, but it doesn't have any mobile game like stuffed into it. Like you're not like buying. There's no like currency, microtransaction, any kind of that kind of stuff in it at all. It's only a $15 like kind of small game.
Yeah, I was gonna ask how much it is. Yeah, okay.
It's so I was looking up, and it seems like it's just like an original thing they just kind of put out. Like because I couldn't see if it was like tied into maybe like Grand Blue Fantasy or something, or tied into some other, like they do a lot of other mobile game stuff too. I couldn't find anything, so maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But basically, here's another genre smorgasbord for you. It's a dungeon crawler, kind of roguelite-ish, creature collecting thing game. 2D, and it's 2D side scrolling as well. So there you go. Basically kind of how the game works is it randomly generates these 2D like side scrolling levels, and you're kind of, you have pretty basic attacks. Like you basically have like a cat's ear. He seems not at all interested, and he's like, oh god.
I'm trying to make sure he doesn't destroy my room.
Yes, excellent. But basically the you kind of get a series of creatures as you start a run essentially, and as you're like defeating enemies or like finding treasure chests or finding like little rooms or shops or whatever you can find, you're accruing like more like creatures, or like they're kind of like, you know, they can be anything from there's one of the starting guys is like a little rat dude with a sword, and that's all he's, like a little mouse guy. He has like a little sword, but I've also gotten like, sorcerer looking people with like bows and arrows and like knights, and like think of like, that mobile game like Dragalia Lost, or even like Bravely Default.
Impact, even
Bravely Default. Like think of like that like kind of chibi character art style. Like there's that's pretty much the style going forward. Okay. Again, in our talk of like, this feels like a 3DS game. 3DS game, but now on the Switch it is very much in that art style. But basically, each creature you collect is basically either a string in a combo of attacks that you're doing, or it is a special attack that you can like hit a different button for it to activate. So basically, like for instance, like the starting set of characters you get, like again, there's like the little mouse dude that with a sword, and there's like a knight squire you can get, and then there's like a ogre looking dude with a club. So basically that's kind of like so at least right at the moment I'm in now, I think like I've gotten a lot of upgrades and things too, so I'm assuming there'll be a point where I can kind of maybe pick and choose from a certain pool of characters potentially to like start with. But basically when you have those three, you can literally just mash your kind of standard attack button, and literally like the order they are in your kind of string of attacks, it'll be like the mouse comes out and swipes his sword, the knight comes out, swipes his sword, and then the big ogre comes out and kind of does like a big slam. So it's kind of like a light heavy kind of combo essentially, if that makes sense. And depending on the characters you're getting, you can mix and match them into this string up to like, you can have up to 5 of those characters. So you can so there's all kinds of characters you can get. So like I've gotten stuff where it's like, here's like an old little witch lady who's like bent over and she shoots like a big icicle ball. So I can have her like in that string of combos as like my first, where it shoots a big ice ball. Then my other characters follow up, or I can have her last and hit with the big ice ball at the end of the combo string. Or I found like a 3-star green knight dude who's like has like wind element. He has a spear, and his like attack by itself is multiple hits. So he'll like do an attack and it'll do like 2 jabs with the spear, and then like a big uppercut that like launches the enemies into the air. So you can kind of have these characters kind of be a string of combo attacks essentially, and it just depends on the creatures you have.
Do they feel like they like connect with one another, or does
Yes.
it feel like there's like a pause between each of them?
It depends on how you set them up. Like
Okay.
the base ones you get is clearly set up, but you can get ones where like they can be a little off center. Like I was saying, like you can have a thing where you have that knight and he uppercuts into the air, and like you'll go up with him. But if it's like a thing where you're kind of off, you like your follow up move might miss depending on what creature it is, or depending on where you have a particular move in your string of 5, and you can like switch them at any time just by like pausing the menu and switching them around.
Kind of like weirdly Pikmin-esque, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's like pink. Yeah, it's like a Pikmin-esque, and like it feels like almost like Chain of Memories-esque, where you're like kind of doing a string of moves, and you kind of have that. You have like the string of moves where you do like the 5 in a row, and then there'll be like a brief like all right reset, and then your characters like spawn back in, and you gotta kind of do another string again. Another thing again, like I said, you can also slot them into special moves. So basically, like, you know, the characters will have their string attack like in that combo string, but then if you slot them into one of those special move slots, like, because you start with one, but then you can unlock a second one, so you can have 2 different characters in your special moves. They will have different moves for their special moves that might be like more powerful. Like for instance, I got this 3-star fire lady. She has like a big like spike ball on a bat. In her combo string, her move actually works like differently if it's on the ground or in the air, where like she does like a big overhead swing. In the air she just does it normally, but if you do it on the ground, she'll slam it into the ground with the overhead swing, and like lava rock balls will like shoot out like further for like a more ranged attack, depending on if you're in the air or on the ground. But if you have her in a special move ability, she'll do like a berserker like Diablo, like where she'll just like come out and like spin in a circle a bunch and like do like an attack and stuff. So you can kind of string those special moves into also your like 5 string of moves and combos and things like that. So it's pretty simple, because it's little, you can just mash those 5 out, but there is enough a little bit of like, all right, when I start getting more characters who have more intricate moves, because they do have like that mobile game sort of star rarity of like, oh, you start with 1-star characters, but then there's like 2-star characters, and maybe they'll have a little bit more going on in their attacks that they can do, and then you have 3-star characters, and they are a little bit more advanced, and maybe them themselves will hit multiple times with like a single kind of attack that you would do in your chain kind of thing. But yeah, that's kind of the major combat. And then other than that, it's like pretty standard, like, you know, dungeon crawler / roguelite current video games, where, you know, you'll run through encounters, you'll get into an arena, you'll fight a bunch of dudes, they'll drop chests, there'll be like certain rooms will have like specific challenges of like, oh, don't get hit in this room, or, you know, defeat the enemies in this certain time, and then if you do that little mini challenge in a room, you'll get 2 chests instead of 1 at the end of the battle. There's like shops and stuff where you can find shops where you can get like little equipment and like, you know, health potions and things, and also you can buy like characters from those. You know, there's like other little, you know, roguelite style, like I got this red crystal and it'll make my close range attacks do more damage for this run. So it'll be like on run items. But then there's like, you know, if you lose and get defeated on a run, you'll go back to kind of a hub, and then there'll be like kind of over time, like, you know, hub world upgrades that you're getting, because essentially, like, you know, there's a loose story to it where you are Noah Little, so it's not Little Noah, you are Noah Little, even though it's called Little Noah. And she's
Stuart Little's older brother. Yeah,
exactly. Well, it's actually a she. She is she's an alchemist who is also piloting an airship, and her airship crashes into these ruins where she meets a cat who can talk, and also a mysterious man who's trying to like find some evil ancient weapon in the ruins, and is trying to kidnap the cat for some reason that I have not discovered yet. But then Noah saves the cat, and now they're friends, unlikely friends, uneasy allies, you could say.
Ooh,
But that
love an uneasy
yeah.
alliance.
It's the story. The story though is like pretty basic because it's literally like, again, it's a $15 game, so it seems pretty budget. Like there's not really like a lot of cutscenes or anything. It's literally all just like 2D hand drawn art and character still on the screen and a little voice and a text box comes up, and it's not even like it's all Japanese. Like the character or like the character voices are Japanese and then it's English, text. So it's not story's pretty basic, but like the gameplay, like it's a fun little idea for sure, that I'm having an alright time with. Like it is as a fan of roguelite games, it is scratching that little itch of those style of games of like, all right, I'm just gonna go on a run and mess up some fools, find these cool little abilities, and oh, it's cool, I found this like fire lady, she has a big fire sword and does fire moves in my combo string, and I can make that like a little bit more interesting and do more stuff. So like it feels nice, and it feels like a bite-sized one of those kind of roguelite dungeon crawlery things. So it's all right. It's not too bad. Yeah, we'll do a viewpoints to that soon.
Yeah, I'm curious to see it like in motion.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it sounds a little weird, but it's interesting for sure.
Yeah, I think Chain of Memories is honestly a good comparison. It makes sense to me.
Yes, yeah. At least like the monster chaining of attacks and stuff.
Yeah.
Just think like 2D combat though with that. Tell me about your Breath of the Wild escapades. You were continuing your journey.
Yeah, because I talked about it last episode. I just wanted to follow up. I finished Breath of the Wild again. Finished it a little while ago, so a little earlier in the month. Did everything for just the second time. Did all the Master Sword trials. Did all the shrines. Did all of the bonus shrines from the DLC.
Nice.
Did the extra dungeon. Beat Ganon. Beat his ass. Feels good. Yeah, that just further cementing that game is always going to be special for me for sure. It is a bummer that that's like up there with like Mass Effect for me of like, I wish I could forget this game so I could feel it all over again.
Yeah, for sure.
But it is definitely like, I know it might not be the popular opinion, but like after playing Elden Ring, which is great, it is definitely like my preferred of the two of that style.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm so glad that Breath of the Wild has come out and allows things like Elden Ring, I think, to be able to also do that. And where some people would have shunned it for being too difficult or not instructive enough, like games are kind of going back in that direction. It's just crazy that like Nintendo was one of the first people to do it like this.
Yeah. Unlikely
of all people.
Unlikely people in some way, shape, or form. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, they certainly have a record of trend setting, but they really nailed it with the format of this.
Yeah.
My cat's attacking my table. But yeah, it's great. It's the DLC is great too. It's like always fun to remember that. Like I could take or leave the Master Sword trials, but there is something like that in most 3D Zelda games. Like Wind Waker has it, and Twilight Princess has it, Skyward Sword has it. So it's cool that that kind of fits into that. But I'm happy I finished it. It took another very long chunk of time, but guess what? All that time was worth it.
Yes.
I have to kick my cat out now, so I'll be right back.
Oh, go for it.
All right. Crisis averted.
Crisis averted. The cat did not get loose.
Yeah, that's a great game. People should play it. I know a lot of people have, but you should go finish it too. It's a good ending.
Go play more of it. Get ready for that. Hopefully early 2023. Breath of the Wild 2.
Fingers crossed. Hit that March date or something, please.
Yeah, give us something, please.
The world needs it.
Yeah, for sure. I got some indie games I can shout out real quick because I've been playing a lot of more indies recently, either on Switch or via Game Pass, mostly on Xbox, but a lot of them are available on Switch, so I want to shout them out here. One I think I talked about a little bit on a previous episode we did a viewpoints for was Young Souls. I actually did go back and beat it. I will say nice. I went through. Admittedly, I hit a point in that game, though. I will be honest and say that like I kind of was. I feel like it was checked out a little bit long in the tooth in some stuff, because it felt more like it was not like upping the interesting battles. Because some of the earlier bosses I think are really fun, where like it feels like some of the later game is just like, oh, now I'm just fighting two of these bosses kind of at the same time rather than like a new boss.
Yes,
and
the Elden Ring approach. What if there were two of them?
Yeah, what if there were two of them, or what if it's like this boss and this boss and you've already fought them, but now they're together and have slightly more health, and it's like, okay,
I really hate that.
Okay, and then so like I definitely hit a point where it's like, you know what, I'm just gonna turn the difficulty way down, and when there's really good accessibility options in that game, I think we showed it off in the viewpoints as well. And I just turned up character damage against me as player characters, like all the I don't think I did all the way down and all the way up, but I more or less like just turned on a bunch of that stuff and just like blasted through it, because I at least wanted to see the rest of it, because I did have a good time with like a good portion of that game. It's just some of the later end stuff was just like
this what you did
overstayed
here
its welcome a little bit.
This is exactly what I did with Rogue Legacy 2 actually this past month as well.
Oh, nice. I was gonna say
bumped it down to very easy and just finished it because I was very close to the end, and I was like, I don't like this anymore.
Let's just be that's unfortunate here, because I do want to go back to that, but
that's just me. I Rogue Legacy is not 100% with me personally, but
sure.
I not to discredit it. A lot of people love it, so
yeah.
I was just like, I want to finish this, but I don't want to try as hard as I need to.
Yes, yeah. It's like at a certain point you can just get that way with some games. But so that was fun. Another game we also did viewpoints for recently that I want to get back to is Souldiers. It's spelled Soul, Suol. Soldiers.
I'm also playing this.
Excellent.
I haven't gotten much farther than the viewpoints we did. I beat that first major boss.
Nice. So I got to the next major zone, I will say. Like, so they're basically like when the viewpoints we're about to get up to, you go through another like kind of sequence that I won't spoil too much, but I will say you get to like more of like a, let's say, town hubbish sort of area. And you do some stuff there, and then that's kind of continues your journey, and then that's where I'm at now, where like I kind of went into this more like canyon / deserty kind of area, and that's where I'm at in my like further along save. That game's super cool. Like, you definitely check out that viewpoint. It is on Switch, although I am playing it on PlayStation. It's like a Metroidvania cross RPG kind of thing, where you straight up pick your class and everything.
You went into like the glossary and stuff, but it does seem like there are 3 other classes that you will unlock eventually. There's
cool.
Like a heavy knight, a spear knight, and then like a rogue, like 2-dagger rogue.
Interesting.
Which is cool.
Yeah. Now I wonder who did you start with, the knight as well?
I did the ranger. After we did that viewpoint.
You did the ranger. Okay. Because I was curious, maybe it's like if it's like those are specific to like the ranger class, or other things. Maybe they are just like advanced classes for each of the 3. Maybe. Yeah,
that's true. It could be that as well. Definitely like a tricky character, because you have like a limited number of arrows that are like
interesting
on a cooldown.
Okay,
but you can throw your bow.
Nice.
And it does like a spinning axe attack. And if you hit enemies with that, you recharge your arrows faster.
Oh, that's cool.
But you can't shoot them while your bow is out of your hand. So you have to throw it, wait for it to come back, and then you can like triple tap and then throw it again.
That's cool.
So there is a cool, like setup to it. And then like the first special that you get is like a charge shot, which does a lot of damage from a pretty deep range.
Nice.
Which as you get into that game, it's definitely like advantageous to be at range.
Yes,
sure.
That's definitely what I noticed too. Playing the little bit I played of the mage, in that viewpoint, so I was like, dang, this. I wouldn't say it makes it like a cakewalk necessarily, but it's definitely feels a lot nicer than the soldier I am playing on, who like you have to get up in characters' faces a lot for with that character compared to other things. Granted, he has a lot more health. Or that character in particular has a lot more health than those 2 classes, I'm assuming for sure. And he has a lot more like stance, defense related things, where you can like put up a shield, and you can also parry and stuff. So like it's nice, but like it's one of those things where I started playing, it was really into it, and it's a pretty freaking challenging game. Like I'm sure you've seen, it's like
it's tough. I'm playing on the normal mode, and it's brutal.
It's pretty brutal to the point where like I'm kind of waiting because like it was apparently like the developers came on Twitter and we were like, we're sorry, we didn't realize we thought this game was that hard or something like that, and like apparently there was like a little bit of an outcry to the point where like they said like we're gonna rebalance some stuff, and I was just like, okay, maybe when they do that, maybe I'll double check in. But even so, like I still had a lot of fun with that game, and I've definitely been thinking about jumping back into it regardless, because it kind of
has the
go ahead.
All right. It kind of has the feel of like a Souls game in that it's like slow, and I think that makes it tough as well. You can't like kind of go ham on stuff.
For sure. It's definitely got that like methodical play to it, because it's not necessarily just enemies. And sometimes it's just like traps and hazards and things you got to look out for, and you got to play a little smarter, and you have like limited kind of heals and resources to like kind of stay alive. So like I still am really enjoying it though, because it has a lot of really cool ideas on top of it being just like a fun, good feeling Metroidvania style game to play, with all those kind of cool classes of characters you can play as to kind of change it up. So that's been a lot of fun. Another quick one, Plague Tale Innocence, which is apparently a cloud version, because the sequel also, Plague Tale Requiem, which is going to be out in like a couple months, I think. That is
October,
that is coming soon, and that'll be a cloud version on Switch. The first game also has a cloud version. And so that was kind of one of those things where I saw the trailer for that second game, and I was like, this actually looks kind of cool. And they're definitely expanding on ideas. Like it looks like has a lot more going on than now that I played the first game. And now I've making me look much forward to that sequel, because the first game is like fine.
It's good.
Especially it helps that it's like I played it on via Game Pass. So it was literally like I downloaded it over this past weekend and played through it within the weekend. It's not like a super long game. Maybe a little longer than it needs to be. But
I agree. But it's for sure.
But it's not super long in general. It's not like some 20-hour thing. But
there's a part where you get captured, and I was like, how much longer is this going to go on?
Yep.
And it went on a good amount longer than that as well.
Yep.
I don't think it says like I've definitely heard people very glowing on this game, saying it's like an excellent, like top tier can't miss video game. I don't know if I'm fully on that.
I would go as far as
there's some cool stuff in this game though that you don't see in other games that is cool. But it's very stealth heavy. So like if you're not into stealth games, I think you'll be turned off by it a lot.
Yeah, that's true.
Which I am into stealth games, but like you said, it just kind of went on for a little bit too long. Mm-hmm. Although by the time you get to the end, gloves are off.
It gets weird.
Yeah, it goes in the weird territory, which I just wanted it to do, I think, earlier. Sure, I think if it had gotten into that like at the halfway point, I would have been way more into it. Mm-hmm. But since they leave it like literally for the very end, I was kind of like not into it as much. But that's where a sequel could be cool.
Yes, they could definitely get more interesting in the sequel. I hope, for sure.
Cool rat tech.
Yeah. You can summon a whole lot of rats and fight rats in that game. That's like the whole second half of that game is bizarre, and that stuff. But yeah, it's not bad overall. I don't know if at the end of the day, I don't think I'd recommend maybe playing the cloud version on Switch, but hey, it exists. So shout out to Plague Tale. That's a video game I played. Close us out here with a fun indie game you have been playing, Alex O'Neill.
Yeah, this is also kind of just a quick indie shout out. Unsighted on Game Pass as well. It's like a Metroidvania. The whole idea is people are going unsighted. There's it's like Majora's Mask-esque, like there's no repeat function, but there is a timeline function where every character in like the hub town, it's a Metroidvania, it's a top-down Metroidvania, which is a cool combo. Think like Hyper Light Drifter, but like more Metroidvania. You just get abilities and upgrades and stuff.
Cool.
But it's good. It feels good. It's got a great parry. There's like a hub town, and it's all like androids, and they're gonna go crazy. Basically, they turn like rogue and go like blood hungry after a certain amount of time. So every time you talk to a character, it literally has in brackets 119 hours remaining, like next to their name. Heavy. It's very heavy. And and once you get into it, they say like, "Hey, we understand this can stress a lot of people out. If you want to turn it off, you can turn it off. We recommend you don't." And I feel like it was an interesting enough idea. Normally, I would honestly turn it off, but it was an interesting enough idea. I wanted to see how it felt to like engage with something like that. And so you get these items, just like collectible items throughout the game that you can give to people to give them 24 hours more of time. And so if you give every character you can give this to pretty much. And if you give 3 to any given character, you like max out their hearts, just like 3 hearts for each person, and they'll give you an item as thanks. So you can't do everybody, and unless you're speedrunning it, like it's not real time, so it goes by like 24 hours is like, you know, an hour in game maybe. Gotcha. So you can extend some people's time. The really dark thing is when somebody has like 12 hours left, it'll pop up a notification saying Marjorie has 12 hours left. And it's like, oh God, I got to go back to the town real quick and help Marjorie.
Yeah, what's going on, Marjorie?
And it'll pop up as well. Marjorie has gone unsighted, and it shows their face, and then it like fades away, and it's like, oh God. So like in the third act of the game, it's like every 5 minutes I'm getting like, this person has gone unsighted. This person is. So it's definitely like, I felt that in a cool way of like, oh, there's stakes to what I'm doing. It feels like what my objective of getting to this thing and helping everyone and saving everyone feels like I'm losing people like by the minute. So they do evoke a really kind of cool feeling. But yeah, I think that, you know, they don't lean too hard into like the relationship stuff. I think there could have been more interesting things there, but combat's fun. There's 4 dungeons pretty much, and the dungeons are all really cool. A lot of ice block puzzles. Fair warning, I'm like hit or miss on ice block puzzles, but generally I do love them. But there's a lot in this game, so you know, some of them are pretty tough.
So yeah, I played a lot of Pokemon in my day. I don't know how I feel about those these days.
Yeah, there's a lot in Alundra, which is one of my favorite games from PS1, and yeah, there's a lot in that. There's too many in that game, but it indoctrinated me to it. So, but yeah, it's good. It's worth checking out. I don't think you have to play it on the stress mode, but it does. You can feel it, and your like little fairy buddy has a time limit as well, and so they can die. Just go mad. The thing is, like, when people go mad, it's like you would, in theory, you could run into them in the world as enemies and have to kill them. So like that didn't happen to me, but I don't know if that can happen. But
interesting.
In theory, it could.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's cool. Good stakes, good ending, felt good. Cool bosses, a good parry, which is important to me.
Always solid.
But yeah, check it out. It's on Game Pass. It's also on Switch and everything else. So play it if you're interested.
Very cool. I don't think I have any other games or things to shout out. So I think that's gonna do it for our trip to Nintendoland.
I gotta go get dinner. So this works out.
Excellent. Thanks everybody as always for checking out the podcast, either on youtube.com or on podcasts, wherever you're watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Feel free to leave us comments or rate us on stuff. Let us know what you think of the show. Or if you have stuff you'd like us to talk about on an episode, always down to take feedback or ideas, for sure. But yeah, we'll be back some point in July with another episode. Maybe we'll get a mini direct, maybe we'll not. Who knows?
We'll find out together.
Yeah, we'll find out indeed. Games coming out in July. There's some stuff. I don't know if we'll Xenoblade.
We might not talk about it.
We might not talk about it. But the when this episode is coming out, the Klonoa remasters will be out pretty soon. So I'm pretty stoked about those. So I'll probably talk about those. We'll probably finally get our dang Mario Kart DLC, like we said. So we'll talk about that. So there'll be stuff.
We'll have more on Monster Hunter and Cuphead.
Monster Hunter and Cuphead as well. In the next episode in June, Thanks everybody again. We'll see you all next time. Bye.